The emerald-skinned, luminary soldiers moved with frantic grace through the searing corridors of their flagship, the Starlight Weaver. The vessel shuddered violently, its internal bulkheads groaning as the Cathar Armada, a crimson tide of destruction, tore into their defenses. Energy beams lanced through the hull, painting the decks with explosions. Captain Alara, a streak of emerald motion, pressed a hand to her bleeding arm, the wound a searing reminder of the battle's ferocity. She burst onto the bridge, the air thick with the acrid smell of burnt wiring. "Status report," she roared, her voice cutting through the blare of alarms and the frantic shouts of her crew. "3 more ships gone, Captain." Her communications officer, Celine, cried out, her usually vibrant emerald skin pale with terror. "The Cathar, they're like a plague. We've lost 70% of our fleet in less than 2 hours." Alara's gaze snapped to the tactical display. Red, aggressive pinpricks representing the Cathar swarmed the map, engulfing the dwindling green dots that marked the Luminary Republic's remaining vessels. Her people, known for their sprawling trade networks and deep space botanical expeditions, were utterly outmatched. Their peaceful exploration craft and cargo haulers, hastily refitted for combat, were no match for the Cathar's purpose-built warships. On the main view screen, she watched in horror as a luminary cruiser, the Jade Serpent, blossomed into a silent, expanding inferno. 30,000 souls evaporated in an instant. Alara's 2 hearts ached with a profound, chilling despair. This wasn't just a battle. It was an extinction event. They were losing. They were losing everything. For 5 long centuries, the Cathar Empire had blazed a brutal trail across the known galaxy. They subjugated weaker civilizations, stripping planets bare and reducing populations to servitude. No species, no alliance, had ever truly stood against them. The Luminary Republic, a collective of 12 harmonious star systems, was merely the latest bounty in their endless, ravenous expansion. "Captain, an urgent message from Xylos Prime," Celine announced, her voice cracking. "The High Council, they're requesting immediate orbital evacuation." "Tell them it's impossible," Alara snapped, her voice raspy. "We can't break the Cathar blockade. Our ships are being overwhelmed too quickly." Another concussive blast rocked the Starlight Weaver. Control panels showered the bridge with sparks. Artificial gravity flickered erratically, causing the crew to stumble, their movements jerky and desperate. "Hull breach on Deck 7, the damage control officer yelled, his voice strained. "Emergency force fields are holding, but barely." Alara's knuckles turned white as she gripped the arms of her command chair. 20 years serving in the Luminary Defense Force had prepared her for skirmishes, for patrols, even for the occasional pirate raid, but never for this scale of systematic annihilation. Her people were known for their peaceful explorations, their artistry, their vast trade networks spanning dozens of systems. They were builders and thinkers, not warriors. Their entire civilization was founded on principles of cooperation and harmonious coexistence. "Captain," her tactical officer, Jorik, shouted, pulling her attention back to the brutal reality unfolding outside. The Cathar flagship, the Dreadfong, is moving into orbital bombardment position over Xylos Prime. They're initiating firing sequences on our major population centers. Through the main viewer, Alara's 2 hearts clenched. The Dreadfong was a monstrosity, 5 times the size of her own vessel, its obsidian black hull bristling with weapon emplacements. The sheer sight of it filled her with a profound, icy dread. Below, Xylos Prime, a vibrant emerald jewel, was home to 4 billion innocent civilians. Children in floating schools, artisans in their workshops, families in their homes, none of whom had ever harmed a single soul. The Cathar would either slaughter them outright or drag them into brutal, endless servitude. Either fate was too horrific to contemplate. "Open a system-wide channel to all remaining luminary vessels," Alara commanded, her voice surprisingly steady. The faces of the few surviving luminary captains materialized on her screen, their emerald features etched with the same fear and weary resignation that gripped her. "My friends," Alara said, her gaze sweeping across their faces, "we all understand how this engagement will end for us. Our ships are fundamentally outmatched. We cannot hope to defeat their firepower, but we can buy time. Every minute we hold this line is another minute for our people on the surface to seek shelter, to find a last refuge." The other captains nodded grimly, their emerald eyes reflecting a stark understanding of their duty. "It has been an honor serving with you all," Alara continued, her voice holding a tremor of profound emotion. "May our sacrifice mean something. May it forge a path for those who follow." The system-wide channel clicked off, leaving only the sound of alarms and the crackle of failing systems. Alara turned to Celine, her communications officer. "Send one final message to the High Council on Xylos Prime. Tell President Theron we tried our absolute best. Tell him we are sorry we couldn't do more." As Celine, tears welling in her eyes, worked frantically at her console, another green dot winked out on the tactical display. The Azure Dream, a long-range exploration vessel, dissolved into a cloud of wreckage under a barrage of Cathar fire. Only 8 ships remained from their original fleet of 40. Their end felt imminent. Meanwhile, deep within the primary underground bunker on Xylos Prime, President Theron sat, the weight of his world pressing down on him. This bunker, a marvel of luminary engineering, now served as the emergency command center. Reports of Cathar ground forces landing in a dozen major cities poured in, painting a grim picture of ruthless soldiers showing no mercy to civilians. "Mr. President," his aide, a younger luminary named Phelan, said softly, his voice trembling, "Captain Alara sends her final report. The defense fleet is destroyed. Orbital bombardment will commence any moment." Theron closed his eyes, a profound weariness etched onto his face. At 70 cycles old, he had guided his people through countless diplomatic crises and resource disputes, but nothing had prepared him for this level of unbridled, genocidal aggression. The luminaries had always held an unwavering belief that reason and diplomacy, guided by compassion, could resolve any conflict. They had been tragically, disastrously wrong. "Sir," the communications director, a stern but compassionate luminary named Lyra, interjected, "we are still receiving messages of sympathy from other galactic civilizations. The Astral Concord sends their thoughts and prayers. The Cygnus Collective wishes us well in these difficult times." "But no actual help," Theron said, his voice laced with bitter resignation. "No ships, no weapons, no support. Just empty words." The devastating truth hung heavy in the air. No major power in the galaxy dared to challenge the Cathar Empire. Each had chosen to remain neutral, prioritizing their own survival over intervention. The luminary people were tragically, utterly alone. "Mr. President," Lyra continued, her voice unwavering, "I have one more idea. We could broadcast a general distress call on all emergency frequencies, not just to established governments, but to anyone, any species who might be listening across the vastness of space." Theron looked at her, his emerald eyes tired, weary with the weight of impending doom. "What good would that do? If the major powers, with all their might, refuse to help us, why would anyone else, any unknown entity, come to our aid?" Lyra's gaze met his, steadfast and urgent. "Perhaps there is someone out there we haven't contacted yet. Someone who might care about innocent lives more than political safety or strategic advantage. Someone whose values align with the sanctity of life itself." Theron paused, deep in thought. Above them, the distant, rumbling thud of Cathar bombs falling on his capital city resonated through the bunker's reinforced walls. His people were dying, their vibrant culture on the brink of annihilation. He had to grasp at every thread of hope, no matter how slim. "Do it," he said, his voice gaining a new, desperate resolve. "Send the distress call. Tell the galaxy what is truly happening here, the sheer brutality of it all." Lyra worked with a practiced, desperate speed at her console. Within minutes, she had drafted a message, a raw plea for survival, designed to be broadcast across all known frequencies in the galaxy. "Recording now, Mr. President," she confirmed, her fingers hovering over the activation panel. Theron rose, his elderly frame straightening, and faced the recording device. He pictured his 4 billion citizens, each one counting on him, from the elders recounting ancient lore to the children hiding in basements as the Cathar soldiers hunted them. "This is President Theron of the Luminary Republic," he began, his voice resonating with a quiet dignity despite the terror engulfing his world. "We are under attack by the Cathar Empire. Our defense fleet has been annihilated. Our cities are burning, reduced to ash by their relentless bombardment. In a matter of hours, our civilization, our very existence, will cease to be. We implore any species capable of providing military assistance to please help us." President Theron's voice continued, resonating across the recording. "We have committed no crimes against anyone. We seek only to live in peace, to pursue knowledge and harmony within the vast expanse of the cosmos. If there is anyone out there who believes that innocent lives matter, who upholds the sanctity of life above all else, please, we beg you, help us. We are running out of time." The message, a desperate cry flung into the void, was transmitted. It hurtled across the galaxy at the speed of light, an invisible wave of pure anguish, reaching monitoring stations on thousands of worlds. Most governments that received it, those grand galactic powers that had chosen calculated neutrality, simply logged it. They filed it away, perhaps noting the demise of another minor civilization, and promptly forgot about it. Their decisions had been made, their courses charted. The luminary people were, in the grand scheme of galactic politics, expendable. But on a small, vibrant blue planet nestled in a system largely considered insignificant by the major galactic players, the message was unexpectedly received. It was intercepted by Earth's Deep Space Monitoring Station 7, a solitary outpost orbiting a gas giant. Commander Anya Sharma was just finishing her quiet night shift, preparing for the automated handoff, when the alien transmission blared through her advanced equipment. Commander Sharma had dedicated 5 years to monitoring the silent ballet of space communications. She had logged countless transmissions from dozens of alien species, mundane trade routes, scientific discoveries, even the occasional cultural broadcast. But she had never, in all her years, encountered anything like this. The raw, guttural desperation in the alien leader's voice, piercing even through the sophisticated translation software, was unmistakable. It wasn't a formal plea, it was a dying gasp. Without a moment's hesitation, Anya bypassed standard protocols and immediately forwarded the uncensored message directly to Earth Defense Command. Within the hour, the distress call had ascended to the highest echelons of human government. The Earth Defense Council, a collection of the planet's most senior military and political leaders, was convened for an emergency, unscheduled meeting. Admiral Jace Corbin, head of the combined fleet, sat at the polished conference table, the holographic display in the center projecting the image of Xylos Prime, wreathed in smoke. Every person in that room had listened to President Theron's harrowing message, not once, but multiple times, each replay deepening the grim resolve on their faces. "Ladies and gentlemen," Defense Secretary Elias Vance began, his voice solemn, echoing in the hushed chamber, "we are faced with a profound decision. Do we respond to this cry for help?" He gestured to the flickering image of the burning luminary homeworld, a species we barely know, from a conflict entirely outside our burgeoning galactic understanding. General Kalen Reed, Chief of Staff for Ground Forces, leaned forward. "With all due respect, Secretary, getting involved in an alien war, especially one against a power as formidable as the Cathar, could be incredibly dangerous for Earth. We are new to this galactic stage. Our faster-than-light capabilities are barely 50 years old. Our fleets are defensive, built to protect our own burgeoning colonies, not to project power across vast interstellar distances. But can we truly sit here in our secure bunker and do absolutely nothing while innocent people are being systematically slaughtered? Admiral Corbin retorted, his voice low but firm. His gaze swept across the faces of his colleagues, challenging them. The message explicitly stated 4 billion civilians are at risk. 4 billion lives extinguished by an unprovoked aggressor. What does that say about us? What does that say about humanity if we turn away from such barbarity? A heavy silence descended upon the room, broken only by the soft hum of the holographic projector. Every individual present understood the immense weight of the decision. Earth had only recently achieved interstellar travel, barely half a century ago. They were in the grand cosmic scheme, infants just beginning to make tentative contact with the myriad civilizations of the galaxy. What exactly do we know about these Kthar? Secretary Vance asked, turning to Director Lena Petrova, the formidable head of intelligence. Director Petrova opened a secure data file, its contents projected onto the table's holographic surface. Not much, I'm afraid, beyond what their victims tell us. They appear to be a highly aggressive military empire that has been expanding for centuries. Their modus operandi involves swift conquest, followed by the enslavement of conquered populations and the systematic stripping of planets for resources. By all accounts, they are overwhelmingly powerful and show no mercy. Truly, a species of singular focus, war, and the luminaries? A peaceful, aesthetically driven civilization, Petrova explained, a softer note entering her voice. 12 star systems. Primarily herbivorous humanoids with striking emerald green skin and a deeply artistic culture. No history of aggression or warfare. Their records indicate a focus on scientific exploration, interstellar trade, and the preservation of natural beauty. They appear to be exactly what their president claims. Innocent victims, caught in the path of a relentless conqueror. Admiral Corbin rose to his feet, his chair scraping softly against the floor. I have dedicated my entire career to the defense of Earth and her colonies. We have poured our resources, our ingenuity, our very spirit into building fleets, into training soldiers, into forging defenses designed to protect innocent lives. If we as a species will not use those fleets, those soldiers, that ingenuity to help others when they desperately need it, when they face total annihilation, then what I ask you, what good are we? What is the purpose of all our strength, if not to defend the vulnerable? The debate raged for another hour, fierce and impassioned, each side presenting compelling arguments for caution or intervention. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, Secretary Vance called for a vote. The decision was agonizingly close, a testament to the internal conflict facing humanity. But in the end, driven by a deep-seated, collective moral imperative, humanity chose to act. 2 days later, Admiral Jace Corbin stood on the command deck of his flagship, the UES Defiant. Around him, 11 other Earth warships hummed with suppressed power, their crews meticulously preparing for humanity's first true interstellar military mission. The fleet was undeniably small when compared to the vast forces of the major galactic powers, but every single vessel, from its reinforced hull to its sophisticated weapon systems, was a testament to centuries of human military innovation and hard-won experience. Each component was forged in the crucible of Earth's own turbulent history, built to fight and to endure. Set course for the luminous system, Corbin ordered, his voice crisp and decisive. Maximum velocity. As the fleet initiated its faster-than-light jump, the stars outside the Defiance viewports elongated into shimmering streaks, then vanished, replaced by the disorienting, exhilarating rush of hyperspace. Corbin gazed into the swirling blue vortex, a profound uncertainty gnawing at him. Would they arrive in time to make any difference? President Theron's message had been a desperate plea for survival, and that was 3 long days ago. For all Corbin knew, Xylos Prime had already fallen, its vibrant civilization reduced to ash and rubble. But Admiral Corbin was a man driven by an unshakable resolve. He was determined to try, even if all that awaited them was the aftermath of a massacre. Humanity had answered the call, and there would be no turning back. Supreme General Valar of the Cathar Empire stood in his command chamber aboard the gargantuan conquest ship, the Dreadfawn. The bridge pulsed with an oppressive crimson light, alive with the guttural voices of his officers coordinating the final, devastating assault on Xylos Prime. Through the immense viewing window, he could see the emerald planet below, already wreathed in the smoke and fire of ongoing bombardment. It was a beautiful sight, in his estimation, the beauty of raw conquest. General, his intelligence officer, a lean, obsidian-skinned Cathar named Exwilar, approached with a data pad, its screen glowing with intercepted communications. "We've detected an anomaly. Communications indicate that someone has actually responded to the luminary distress signal." Valar, an imposing figure standing 8 feet tall with thick, scarred obsidian skin and eyes that glowed with malevolent red light, turned his massive form toward the officer. Cathar were born warriors, their very existence defined by ritual combat and endless expansion. "Explain," Valar demanded, his voice a deep, resonant growl that vibrated through the deck plates. A species designation, humans, originating from a planet identified as Earth. They appeared to be dispatching military vessels to assist the luminaries. Valar let out a harsh, metallic laugh, a sound like grinding geological plates. "Humans? I confess, the name rings no bells. Show me what our historical databases contain regarding this species." Exwilar activated a holographic display. A small, blue-green planet materialized, rotating slowly in the center of the bridge. Data scrolled rapidly beside it in crisp Cathar script. "They're a recently contacted species, General. A single-planet civilization, barely unified. They only achieved faster-than-light travel approximately 50 cycles ago. Our records show no significant military victories in any galactic conflicts. Their projected technology rating is classified as primitive, markedly inferior to established galactic powers." Valar studied the display with an air of amused contempt. "How many of these primitive ships are they sending?" "Our long-range sensors detect 12 distinct vessels approaching the system boundary." 12 ships. Valar roared with laughter again, the sound echoing ominously. "To confront our conquest fleet of 200 fully armed vessels? These humans must possess either unfathomable courage or staggering idiocy." His tactical officer, a hulking Cathar named Krull, stepped forward. "General, should we perhaps redirect a portion of our forces to intercept this threat?" "Threat?" Valar's red eyes gleamed with undisguised mockery. "Hardly. Send Patrol Squadron 7 to intercept these humans. Assign Commander Xylos to the task. Have him eliminate them quickly. I will not tolerate this minor annoyance delaying our conquest schedule by even a single moment." Here's the 7th segment, continuing the narrative. "Yes, General," Exwilar confirmed, relaying the orders. Valar then turned back to the immense viewport, his attention returning to the ongoing, glorious bombardment of Xylos Prime. The arriving human ships were beneath his personal consideration. In 5 centuries of relentless conquest, the Cathar Empire had never once faced a serious challenge from any other species. These newcomers would quickly learn the terrifying reason why. Meanwhile, deep within the primary underground bunkers of Xylos Prime, President Theron received news that sent a jolt of electrifying hope through his weary frame. His 2 luminary hearts, which moments before had beat with the slow rhythm of despair, now hammered with frantic, renewed possibility. "Mr. President," his communications director, Lyra, exclaimed, her voice barely containing her excitement. "We've received a direct response to our distress call. A species designated humans is dispatching military assistance." Theron, who had been stoically preparing for the final, desperate evacuation of government officials to the deepest, most secure shelters, stopped dead in his tracks. "Humans?" he repeated, a flicker of confusion in his emerald eyes. "I've never heard of this species. What do our historical records indicate about them?" His aide, Phelan worked with frantic speed at a nearby computer terminal, his fingers flying across the holographic interface. "Very little information, sir," Phelan reported, his voice a mix of awe and bewilderment. "They appear to be a recently contacted civilization from a single, relatively undeveloped planet. No significant military history in any galactic records. Their technology ratings are classified as basic, sir, primitive even, compared to the established major powers of the galaxy." Theron felt the nascent spark of hope begin to falter, dimming almost as quickly as it had ignited. He sank heavily into his chair, the crushing weight of reality returning. "How many ships are they sending, Phelan?" 12 vessels, sir." The president closed his eyes. 12 ships, against the colossal Cthar fleet that had already effortlessly annihilated their own 40-ship defense force. It felt less like a genuine rescue attempt and more like another sympathetic, yet ultimately futile, gesture. "At least," he murmured, his voice barely a whisper, "someone cared enough to try. Even if they cannot possibly save us, they are willing to risk their lives for complete strangers. That means something." High above the besieged planet, the space around Xylos Prime was a desolate graveyard, choked with the twisted debris of shattered ships. Cthar fighters, sleek and predatory, patrolled the ruins, hunting for any lingering luminary vessels. The few, tattered survivors of the defense fleet were either hiding precariously in asteroid fields or desperately clinging to the magnetic shadows of the planet's moons. Captain Alera's ship, the Starlight Weaver, was one of only 3 luminary vessels still barely operational. Her bridge crew was reduced to less than half strength, and critical life support systems were failing, flickering in and out. They were currently using Xylos Prime's powerful magnetic field as a makeshift cloak, hoping to remain undetected by the Cthar sensors. "Captain," Celine, her communications officer, reported, her voice hushed with awe, "I'm detecting new ship signatures entering the system. Their configuration, it doesn't match any known Cthar or luminary designs." Alera's gaze darted to her tactical display. 12 new contacts were now streaking in from the very edge of the system, moving with astonishing speed and precision in a tight, disciplined formation. They were heading directly toward the main Cthar fleet. Could these be the humans President Theron mentioned in his last transmission? Alera wondered aloud, a desperate, irrational hope blossoming in her chest. "Possibly, Captain." Jorik, the tactical officer, replied, his voice laced with disbelief. "But 12 ships? Against the entire Cthar conquest fleet that destroyed us in minutes? They will be annihilated. They will be utterly wiped out within moments of engaging." Alera watched the display with a complex mix of burgeoning gratitude and agonizing apprehension. She was undeniably thankful that someone, anyone, had answered their desperate plea. Yet, the thought of watching more valiant, good people die uselessly, flung against the overwhelming might of the Cthar, filled her with dread. Admiral Jace Corbin stood resolutely on the bridge of the UES Defiant, as his fleet snapped out of faster-than-light travel at the very edge of the luminous system. The sight that assaulted their viewports made his jaw clench, a muscle twitching in anger. The beautiful emerald world of Xylos Prime, a jewel he had only seen in distant reconnaissance photos, was now choked with plumes of black smoke and vibrant orange fire. Space around the planet was a nightmare of orbital debris, the twisted, shattered remains of destroyed ships drifting everywhere. A grim, silent testament to the horrific battle that had already taken place, a battle the luminaries had clearly lost. "Tactical report," Corbin ordered, his voice sharp with urgency. Lieutenant Commander Ben Carter, his tactical officer, worked with practice speed at his console, data scrolling rapidly across his display. "Sir, I count approximately 200 Cthar vessels in the system. They've established a complete, impenetrable blockade around the planet. I also detect what appears to be ongoing, indiscriminate orbital bombardment of major population centers. They're not targeting military structures, they're hitting cities." Corbin's hands clenched into tight fists at his sides. He had served in the Earth Defense Force for 25 years, engaged in countless skirmishes against pirates, quelled hostile incursions threatening human colonies, and overseen countless defense drills. But he had never, not once, witnessed destruction on this horrific scale. This wasn't warfare. It was slaughter. Any sign of surviving luminary forces? He pressed, a flicker of hope amidst the dread. Sensors are detecting 3 very faint energy signatures hiding deep within the planet's magnetic field. Sir, Carter reported. They appear to be heavily damaged, almost derelict. Minimal power signatures. Communications. Corbin barked, turning to his comms officer. Captain Marcus Thorne, can you establish contact with those luminary survivors? Prioritize a direct channel. Working on it, sir, Thorne replied, his fingers flying across the holographic interface. Corbin studied the tactical display again, the cold, hard numbers starkly presenting the impossible odds. 200 enemy ships against his meager 12. By any conventional military calculation, the mission was suicide. But human military doctrine, forged through millennia of brutal, desperate conflicts on their home world, was not based on conventional calculations. It was based on adaptability, aggression, and an unwavering refusal to be defeated. Sir, Captain Thorne exclaimed, his voice laced with surprise and a hint of relief. I have contact with one of the luminary vessels. Their captain wishes to speak with you personally. The emerald-skinned face of Captain Alara appeared on the main view screen. She looked utterly exhausted, her uniform singed and torn, a crude bandage wrapped around her arm. Yet, despite her wounds and obvious fatigue, her emerald eyes burned with a fierce, defiant determination. Admiral Corbin, Alara said, her voice crackling slightly through the comms. I am Captain Alara of the Luminary Defense Force. I must warn you, the Cathar fleet is impossibly vast. Your 12 ships cannot possibly fight them all. You must withdraw while you still can. Your sacrifice would be in vain. Corbin looked at the alien captain, a surge of respect washing over him. Even on the precipice of utter annihilation, this being, a stranger, was trying to protect his fleet. Captain Alara, Corbin replied, his voice calm and steady, projecting a confidence he hoped she could feel. I appreciate your concern, truly. But my species does not abandon innocent people to be slaughtered. We came here to help, and that is precisely what we intend to do. But Admiral, you do not understand the Cathar. Alara pleaded, her voice rising in urgency. Their empire has never been defeated, not once in 5 centuries. Their ships are overwhelmingly powerful, and their warriors are utterly ruthless. They have conquered hundreds of worlds, dismantled entire civilizations. Corbin's lips curved into a grim, unyielding smile. Captain, he stated, his voice resonating with a quiet intensity. They've never fought humans before. That, Captain, is about to change. Before Alara could respond, before the implications of his declaration could fully sink in, Lieutenant Commander Carter's voice cut through the comms, sharp with warning. Admiral, Cathar Patrol Squadron approaching. 8 vessels, sir, moving rapidly to intercept our position. Corbin's eyes narrowed, his jaw set. He turned to his crew, his voice booming with authority, cutting through the general chatter. Battle stations. All ships, assume combat formation gamma. Prepare to engage the enemy. Show them what true defiance looks like. Across the human fleet, alarm sirens blared, flashing red lights bathing the interiors of the warships. Crews scrambled, adrenaline surging as they rushed to their assigned combat positions. The ships of Earth's first interstellar war fleet were not designed for aesthetic appeal or diplomatic grandeur. They were brutally functional, built like armored fists forged for interstellar combat, designed to withstand unimaginable punishment and deliver devastating force in the cold, unforgiving vacuum of space. Their very forms spoke of purpose, of survival, of a long history of desperate, bloody conflict. Commander Xylos, a Cathar warrior with a fearsome battle-scarred face, led Patrol Squadron 7 with absolute, chilling confidence. His 8 ships, sleek and formidable, were more than sufficient to dismantle 12 primitive vessels from an unknown species. The Cathar had faced countless adversaries over the centuries, from fledgling civilizations to seasoned interstellar empires, and none had ever presented a genuine challenge. This engagement, to him, was a mere formality. Target the largest human ship. Xylos's voice boomed across his squadron's internal comms. Focus all fire. Destroy it first to utterly shatter their morale and show them the futility of resistance. The Cathar ships unleashed a torrent of energy. Hundreds of crimson plasma beams, thick as starship hulls, streaked across the void toward the approaching human fleet. The empty blackness of space around Xylos Prime lit up like a deadly, chaotic light show. But what happened next defied all Cathar tactical doctrine, shocking every observer in the system, both enemy and ally. The human ships did not attempt to evade. They did not try to scatter or flee. Instead, with a terrifying, unified resolve, they accelerated directly toward the Cathar squadron. Their thick, angular armor, designed for absorbing brutal kinetic impacts, shimmered as it absorbed the enemy fire, holding firm against the plasma onslaught. As they rapidly closed the distance, the human vessels unleashed their own weapons, a type of armament unlike anything the Cathar, or indeed most of the galaxy, had ever witnessed. Not elegant energy beams, but solid, heavy projectiles launched from massive magnetic accelerators. These slugs, traveling at incomprehensible velocities, slammed into the Cathar ships with devastating force. The sheer kinetic energy unleashed was apocalyptic, punching through the Cathar's formidable layered shields and piercing armor plating that had protected their vessels for centuries. Explosive warheads, designed and perfected on Earth to obliterate their planet's heaviest fortifications, detonated deep within the Cathar hulls, tearing enemy vessels apart from the inside out with concussive force. In less than 5 brutal minutes, all 8 Cathar ships in Patrol Squadron 7 were either annihilated outright or left crippled, adrift, and burning. The human fleet continued its relentless advance, without slowing, heading directly for the main Cathar force. Commander Xylos's final transmission, intercepted by both sides, was not a warrior's defiant last stand, but a choked sound filled with raw panic and utter disbelief. These humans, their weapons by the void. How is this possible? The transmission abruptly cut out. Supreme General Velar received the news of his patrol squadron's destruction with a profound shock that rapidly transmuted into incandescent, barely contained rage. No enemy had ever, in the long, glorious history of the Cathar Empire, destroyed his ships with such devastating ease. Impossible, he roared, his voice shaking the very bridge of the Dreadfawn. 8 ships cannot be annihilated by 12 primitive vessels. This is an insult. His intelligence officer, HFY, was now reviewing the real-time battle data with growing horror, his composure visibly cracking. General, HFY reported, his voice a strained whisper, the human weapons appear to be based purely on kinetic energy, not plasma or energy beams. Their ships are incredibly heavily armored, designed for brutal, close-quarters combat. This is utterly unlike any military technology or doctrine we have ever encountered in the galaxy. It defies our every expectation of naval warfare. Valar stared at the tactical display, which now showed the relentless, determined approach of the human fleet. These were not the weak, easily crushed primitives he had expected. These humans fought like something else entirely, something savage and unpredictable. "Prepare the fleet for battle," he bellowed, his voice filled with a new, unsettling undercurrent of primal fury. "All ships, full combat formation. These humans want to fight? They will get a fight they will regret for eternity." Captain Alara watched the horrifying, yet mesmerizing, spectacle of the battle from her hiding place behind Xylos Prime's moon. Her ship's damaged sensors could barely keep pace with the incredibly fast-moving human ships as they tore with brutal efficiency through the Cathar formation. Captain Jorik, her tactical officer, whispered in utter astonishment, his emerald eyes wide. The humans, they have destroyed or crippled over 60 Kthar ships in less than 2 hours. Their own losses, they are minimal, Captain, almost non-existent. Alara could barely process what her sensors were telling her, what her eyes were witnessing. The mighty Kthar Empire, conquerors of hundreds of worlds, the invincible force that had crushed her own people, were being systematically, humiliatingly beaten by 12 ships from a species no one in the galaxy had ever heard of. How is this possible? She breathed, the words barely escaping her lips. Captain, Jorah continued, his voice still filled with wonder. The humans are continuing directly toward the main Kthar fleet. They are not retreating. They are pushing their attack. Alara looked at the cold, hard numbers on her display. 12 human ships against nearly 200 Kthar vessels. By all logical military calculations known to the luminaries, the humans should have been executing a desperate, high-speed retreat, attempting to save themselves. Instead, they were accelerating, charging headlong towards what should have been certain, overwhelming death. Unless they possessed a profound understanding of warfare, a brutal, unconventional wisdom that the rest of the galaxy, steeped in its honorable traditions, simply did not comprehend. On the surface of Xylos Prime, President Theron received the frantic, disbelieving reports of the space battle with a surge of hope and utter amazement. The humans weren't just fighting the Kthar. They were inexplicably, miraculously winning. Mr. President, Phelan, his aide, exclaimed, his voice cracking with excitement. Our orbital observers report that the human fleet has utterly shattered the Kthar battle line. The enemy ships are in full, disorganized retreat. They're scattering. Theron felt tears sting his emerald eyes. After days of unremitting despair, watching his people perish and his ancient civilization burn, a fragile, impossible hope had finally appeared. But he knew, with chilling certainty, that the battle was far from over. The Kthar were relentless. Supreme General Valar, reeling from the incomprehensible defeat of his patrol squadron and the systematic dismantling of his supply lines, finally grasped that his traditional, honorable tactics were catastrophically useless against these human warriors. If he was to snatch victory from the jaws of this bizarre defeat, he needed to abandon every shred of Kthar doctrine. All ships, he bellowed, his voice raw with fury and a terrifying new realization. Abandon all formation fighting. Disperse. Surround the human vessels. Use our overwhelming numbers to crush them from all sides. Overwhelm them. The remaining Kthar ships, shaken but still formidable in their sheer numbers, broke from their rigid battle lines. They began to swarm, a vast, predatory swarm, closing in on the surprisingly small human fleet. They might not be able to match the humans' bewildering tactics, but they still possessed a nearly 20-to-1 numerical superiority. If they could trap the human ships, attack them from every conceivable angle, they might still salvage victory. They might still win. Admiral Jace Corbin observed the abrupt change in the enemy's tactics, and a grim, satisfied smile touched his lips. The Kthar were learning, adapting, but they were still thinking like aliens who had never faced a species that lived and breathed total warfare. All ships, Corbin broadcast, his voice radiating cold command. Exécutez défensive formation Charlie. Show them, once and for all, why humans survived as the apex predators on their homeworld. Show them what happens when you corner a beast. The 12 human ships, acting as one unified entity, moved with incredible speed and precision into a tight, impenetrable spherical formation. Their heaviest, most armored vessels positioned themselves on the outside, forming a formidable shell, while the more vulnerable carriers and support ships were protected in the hardened center. As the Kthar ships closed in, converging from every direction, the humans demonstrated yet another brutal lesson from Earth's bloody, ancient history. When surrounded, when utterly outnumbered, humans did not panic. They did not break. They became exponentially more dangerous. The human ships erupted with synchronized fire in all directions simultaneously. Their advanced targeting computers, tracking dozens of enemy vessels with chilling efficiency. Their kinetic weapons, designed over centuries to penetrate the strongest defenses Earth itself could construct, found the vaunted Kthar armor to be little more than fragile plating. The space immediately surrounding the human fleet transformed into a chaotic, incandescent killing field. Any Kthar ship that dared to come within range of their terrifying, precise fire was either obliterated or crippled within seconds. The humans fought like a pack of starving wolves surrounded by bewildered, helpless prey, deadly, perfectly coordinated, and utterly, ruthlessly without mercy. Impossible! Valar screamed from the bridge of the Dreadfong, his voice now laced with genuine fear as he watched yet another squadron of his ships explode in a silent, fiery bloom. There are only 12 vessels. How can they do this? His intelligence officer, HFY, was now frantically studying the real-time combat data, his obsidian-black skin paling to an ashen gray, his usual composure completely shattered. "General," he stammered, his voice trembling uncontrollably, "I am analyzing their combat patterns now. These humans, they do not fight like any known galactic species. Their tactics are utterly ruthless. They target weak points with surgical precision. They employ deception with cunning disregard for honor. They coordinate their attacks with terrifying efficiency, and they show absolutely no hesitation in sacrificing even damaged ships for tactical advantage." What kind of species are they, General? HFY looked at his commander, true terror in his glowing red eyes. "General, I believe we have encountered a species that has spent its entire evolutionary history perfecting the art of war. Every single tactic they employ, every strategy they execute, every single nuance of their combat suggests a civilization that has been fighting constantly for thousands of cycles. Not just against external foes, but seemingly against themselves." Valar felt a profound, ice-cold dread course through his massive frame. The Kthar Empire had conquered the galaxy because they were inherently stronger, inherently more aggressive, more brutal than other species. But these humans were something utterly different. They were not just warriors forged by conflict. They were the very embodiment of war itself. War made flesh. The brutal, one-sided battle continued for another agonizing hour, but the outcome was no longer in doubt. The once invincible Kthar fleet was being systematically, mercilessly destroyed by an enemy that fought with a level of skill, adaptability, and utter ruthlessness they had never, in their entire brutal history, encountered. Captain Eva Rostova led her destroyers in a final, relentless assault on the remaining Kthar cruisers. The enemy ships, now broken and terrified, tried desperately to retreat, to scatter into the void, but the humans pursued them with unyielding tenacity. "Sir," Commander Ben Carter, her tactical officer, called out, his voice tinged with grim satisfaction, "the enemy flagship, the Dreadfong, is attempting to escape the system. They're powering up their FTL drives." Eva Rostova's eyes narrowed, fixed on the monstrous Kthar dreadnought as it began its desperate, lumbering attempt to disengage from the battle. She thought of the 4 billion innocent luminaries on Xylos Prime, who had suffered under the Kthar-esque barbaric bombardment. She thought of their emerald cities burning. "All ships," Eva ordered, her voice cold and devoid of pity, "pursue the flagship. Do not let it escape. These monsters came here to murder innocent people. They do not get to simply run away when the fight turns against them. They will face justice here." The human fleet, abandoning the crippled, burning remnants of the Kthar force, surged forward, chasing after Valar's flagship with predatory speed. The colossal Dreadfong was fast for its size, but the human ships were faster, infinitely more maneuverable, and driven by a burning, righteous fury. Admiral Jace Corbin opened a communication channel, routing it directly to the fleeing Kthar commander. "Supreme General Valar," Corbin's voice resonated, cold and deadly, devoid of any emotion other than grim resolve. "Your fleet is shattered. Your empire's forces are broken. Surrender now, and spare the lives of your remaining crew. This is your only chance." VALR's obsidian black face, streaked with alien blood and sweat, appeared on the main screen, twisted with a horrifying blend of raw rage and abject fear. "You think you have one, human?" VALR snarled, his voice a guttural rasp, trembling with impotent fury. "You fight like beasts, like dishonorable, savage animals. The galaxy will see what you have done to us. Every warrior species will despise your methods and unite against you. You have merely created enemies on every front." Corbin's grim smile returned, a chilling, humorless baring of teeth. "You are absolutely right," he stated, his voice now a low, predatory growl. "We do fight like beasts. We are the beasts that crawled out of the caves and conquered our entire planet. We are the beasts that turned warfare into a cold, hard science. And now, General, you're going to learn why every predator species in Earth's history learned to fear us." The human fleet, a relentless pack, closed in on the Cathar flagship, surrounding their prey. The Dreadfong, now a burning hulk, shuddered one final, catastrophic time. It exploded in a silent, blinding ball of fire, taking the Cathar Supreme General with it. The remaining enemy ships, a handful of terrified, broken vessels, scattered wildly, fleeing back toward their home territories in a desperate, disorganized rout. The Battle of Xylos Prime was over. The news of Supreme General VLR's humiliating defeat reached the Cathar homeworld 3 days later. Emperor Zorgan sat on his throne of jagged, obsidian metal, listening to the reports with a growing, cold fury. The massive, tyrannical ruler of the Cathar Empire had not felt the tremor of fear in over 200 cycles. But these humans, they had accomplished something truly impossible. "Explain to me how VALR lost 200 ships to 12 primitive vessels," Zorgan bellowed, his voice rattling the very bones of his trembling advisors in the throne room. War Minister Drax, a hulking Cathar warrior, stammered as he delivered the grim report. "Your Majesty, the humans did not fight according to any known galactic warfare protocols. They employed tactics our commanders had never encountered. They targeted supply ships, used coordinated attacks with terrifying precision, and showed absolutely no mercy to disabled vessels. It was dishonorable." Zorgan surged from his throne, his immense obsidian form towering menacingly over his cowering advisors. "Bring me everything we know about this species called humans." Within hours, Cathar intelligence analysts, working with desperate urgency, had compiled every scrap of information about Earth and its inhabitants. What they uncovered chilled them to their very core, a sensation alien to the Cathar psyche. "Your Majesty," Intelligence Director Zarn reported, his voice tight with suppressed alarm, "we have uncovered deeply disturbing information about human history. According to galactic databases, this species has been engaged in constant, unremitting warfare since they first developed civilization." Zorgan studied the holographic displays, which now vividly showed Earth's bloody, tumultuous history. Wars, battles, and conflicts stained every page of human records, an endless, horrifying litany. "Most species," Zarn continued, a tremor in his voice, "experience perhaps 10 to 20 major conflicts during their entire development toward interstellar travel. The humans, they have fought over 15,000 documented wars. They have perfected weapons of unthinkable mass destruction, developed military strategies that other species consider utterly impossible or insane, and have quite literally turned warfare into a brutal, exact science." "Impossible," Zorgan roared, but the conviction in his voice was noticeably absent. "No species could possibly survive such constant, internecine warfare. They would obliterate themselves. That, Your Majesty, is precisely what makes them so profoundly dangerous," Zarn countered, a note of grim fascination in his tone. "They did not just survive it. They thrived because of it. Every single generation of humans has been tested, tempered, and refined by combat. Only the strongest, the most cunning, the most ruthless have survived to reproduce and pass on their traits. They have literally evolved to be perfect warriors, not merely physically, but intellectually and psychologically. War is in their very essence. Zorgan felt a cold, unfamiliar sensation course through his massive frame. Uncertainty. The Cathar Empire had carved out its dominion across the galaxy because they were inherently stronger, inherently more aggressive, more utterly brutal than any other species they had encountered. But these humans were something else entirely. They were not just warriors. They were the embodiment of war itself. War made manifest. Prepare the Grand Fleet. Zorgan finally ordered, his voice still shaking with a suppressed rage. Every available ship. I will personally lead the assault on the human homeworld. We must eradicate this threat. We must utterly destroy them before they grow any stronger. They are a disease upon the galaxy. Meanwhile, news of the Cathar defeat at Xylos Prime had rippled like a shockwave throughout the entire galaxy. On dozens of worlds, government officials watched the replayed battle footage with a mixture of profound shock and utter amazement. In the shimmering crystal cities of the Astral Concord, Chancellor Revo called an emergency council meeting. The elegant, tall, and typically composed astral beings spoke in hushed, disbelieving tones. We have all seen the battle reports, Revo announced to the assembled diplomats, the holographic display showing the incredible footage of the UES Defiant cutting through the Cathar lines. 12 human ships, a paltry number, decimated the largest Cathar battle fleet ever assembled. We must consider the profound implications of this for galactic politics. Perhaps we should formally make contact with these humans, suggested Ambassador Lyra, an ancient and wise astral diplomat. If they possess the capability to defeat the Cathar, they could be invaluable allies in our long-standing struggle for peace. Or they could be exceptionally dangerous enemies, retorted Defense Minister Cato, his voice sharp with caution. These humans fight with a brutality we have never witnessed. Look at their tactics. They target civilian infrastructure, use deception, and show no mercy to defeated foes. They are as ruthless as the Cathar, perhaps more so. The debate continued for agonizing hours, revealing the deep ideological divisions within the Astral Concord. Every major galactic power, from the secretive Viridian hegemony to the sprawling trade guilds, was having similar, fractious discussions. The humans, with a single, astonishing battle, had irrevocably shifted the entire balance of galactic power. On the Cygnus collective capital world, the mechanical analyst Quinn meticulously studied the battle footage for the 20th time. The logical, pragmatic beings of the collective prided themselves on their calculated, efficient thinking, but human tactics seemed almost chaotic, illogical even. Their strategy makes no logical sense according to standard military doctrine, Quinn reported to the High Circuit, their collective consciousness. They attack the strongest enemy formations directly, yet simultaneously strike at their weakest points. They employ both honorable tactics and utterly dishonorable ones in the very same engagement. Conclusion, asked the Prime Unit, its synthetic voice devoid of inflection. These humans are fundamentally unpredictable. That, Prime Unit, makes them an anomaly, and thus, extremely dangerous. We recommend immediate, direct diplomatic contact to assess their true intentions and capabilities. Their variable nature makes them a wild card. Back in the Luminous system, Admiral Jace Corbin received an urgent, encrypted message from Earth Defense Command. The transmission, delayed by the vast interstellar distances, had taken 3 days to reach him, and its contents were deeply alarming. Admiral, the recorded message from Secretary Vance began, his face grim, etched with signs of severe stress and fatigue. Long-range scouts report that the Cathar fleet heading toward Earth is far larger than we initially believed. Over 1,000 ships, Admiral, including Emperor Zorgan's personal flagship, the Oblivion's Maw. They will arrive in approximately 6 days. We are initiating full civilian evacuation protocols from the outer colonies and preparing Earth for protracted siege warfare. Casualties are projected to be catastrophic. Corbin felt his stomach clench. Even with his now upgraded and formidable fleet, 12 ships simply could not hope to stop 1,000 enemy vessels. The odds were impossible. "Sir," Corbin replied into the comm, his voice tight, "my fleet is still undergoing critical repairs and upgrades here. We will return as soon as humanly possible." "Negative, Admiral." Chen's voice, sharper and more strained, cut in, overriding Vance's message. "New orders have just arrived from the Defense Council. You are to remain in the Luminous system. Your fleet will prepare for a fighting retreat. If Earth falls, if our defenses are overwhelmed, your fleet will be humanity's only remaining military force. You are the last hope for our species." The transmission ended abruptly, leaving Corbin staring at a blank screen, the chilling silence deafening. The very thought of abandoning Earth, of leaving his homeworld undefended against such a monstrous force, was unthinkable. Yet he understood the cold, brutal logic. If the Cathar destroyed every human ship in a single, decisive battle, humanity would be rendered utterly defenseless, an easy target for subsequent extermination. It was a gamble for survival. President Theron appeared in Corbin's ready room an hour later, his emerald-green face troubled, but his eyes shining with a resolute determination Corbin hadn't seen before. "Admiral," the luminary leader began, his voice calm, "we have been monitoring your communications. We know about the immense threat to your homeworld. It is a desperate situation." Corbin nodded grimly. "I appreciate your concern, Mr. President, truly. But this is humanity's burden to bear, humanity's problem to solve. With all due respect, Admiral, you are gravely mistaken," Theron countered, his voice firm. "The Cathar Empire, in its relentless expansion, threatens every free species in the galaxy. If they succeed in destroying Earth, if they absorb your formidable warrior capabilities, they will become stronger, more arrogant, and more terrifying than ever before. They will most assuredly come for the rest of us, eventually. This is not merely humanity's problem. It is the galaxy's problem." Theron activated a detailed holographic display, showing the galactic political map. Vast swaths of it, nearly 1/3 of known space, were colored a menacing, expanding red, marking Cathar territory. "We have been in extensive contact with other governments since your victory here," Theron continued, his gaze sweeping across the map. "The Astral Concord, the Cygnus Collective, even some of the smaller independent worlds. Every eye in the galaxy is now fixed on Earth, watching to see what happens when the Cathar launch their final, overwhelming attack. And if humanity falls, if your species is annihilated, every other species in this galaxy will know, with chilling certainty, that resistance is utterly hopeless. The Cathar will have definitively proven that even the galaxy's most formidable warriors cannot stop them. Fear will consume all. But if Earth survives..." Corbin's eyes met Theron's, a new understanding dawning on him. "Exactly, Admiral. If Earth survives," Theron finished, a powerful conviction in his voice, "then other species might finally find the courage, the inspiration to resist. We have a formal proposal, Admiral. The Luminary Republic formally requests to join your defense of Earth. We wish to stand with you, as military allies, in this desperate hour." Corbin was stunned. "Mr. President," he said, his voice laced with disbelief, "you are asking your people, who have only just begun to re-establish their defenses, to fight in a battle they probably cannot win. You will be sending more of your population to their deaths." Theron's emerald eyes were resolute, unwavering. "Admiral, 3 days ago, my people faced utter extinction. You came when no one else would help, when every other power turned their back. You saved 4 billion innocent lives. Now it is our solemn duty, our honor, to stand with you. The galaxy is watching, Admiral, and history will remember what choices we make in this defining moment. We will not be silent any longer." Outside the viewport of Corbin's ready room, he could see the luminary shipyards working with a frantic, desperate pace, their massive construction arms tending to the human vessels. Engineers from both species, humans and luminaries, worked side by side, sharing invaluable technology, knowledge, and sheer willpower. For the very first time since learning of the existential Cathar threat to Earth, Admiral Corbin felt a powerful, undeniable spark of hope ignite within him. Humanity would not face this ultimate battle alone. The war for the galaxy was about to begin. The massive Cathar invasion fleet, a black tide of impending doom, shimmered into existence as it dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of Earth's solar system. Over 1,000 warships, including the colossal flagship of Emperor Zorgan himself, the Oblivion's Maw, filled the space between Mars and Jupiter. The largest military force ever assembled in galactic history had arrived to annihilate humanity's homeworld. Emperor Zorgan stood on his bridge, a vast chamber of black metal and glowing crimson displays, studying the small, vibrant blue planet that had somehow produced such bewilderingly dangerous warriors. Earth looked deceptively peaceful from this distance, a swirling marble of blue and white, but Zorgan knew better than to underestimate these humans again. "Begin the assault," Zorgan commanded, his voice a low, guttural growl that resonated with absolute authority. "Destroy their orbital defenses first, then bombard their major cities. I want this species wiped from existence. Every last one." But as the Cathar fleet surged forward, a terrifying, unstoppable juggernaut bearing down on Earth, they encountered something unexpected. The human homeworld was not defenseless. Admiral Valerius Chun commanded Earth's defense from the orbital station, Nexus Station, a sprawling bastion of human ingenuity. Around him, hundreds of human warships, augmented by luminary technology, took defensive positions throughout the solar system. The entire Earth Defense Force had been mobilized, alongside ships from the colonial fleets and even hastily armed merchant marine vessels. "Sir," reported Captain Marcus Thorne, his voice tight with anticipation, "long-range sensors detect the Cathar fleet approaching. Over 1,000 ships, just as intelligence predicted. They're already engaging our outer picket lines." Chun nodded grimly. Even with every available human and allied vessel, they were still outnumbered nearly 3-1. But Earth's defenders had spent weeks working relentlessly, preparing for this very moment. They had turned their home system into an intricate, deadly trap. "All ships, execute defensive plan Omega," Chun broadcast, his voice calm amidst the rising tension, echoing across every human and luminary vessel. "Remember, we are not just fighting for Earth. We are fighting for every free species in the galaxy. We fight for the right to exist." The Battle of Earth erupted at the asteroid belt, a maelstrom of destruction and blinding light. Human mining stations, once peaceful outposts of resource extraction, had been ingeniously converted into massive, improvised weapons platforms. Their industrial equipment, repurposed into colossal railguns, spat torrents of hypervelocity projectiles. As the Cathar fleet advanced, they were met by a devastating wall of kinetic fire, launched from these seemingly crude, yet incredibly effective, fortresses. Zorgan watched in enraged disbelief as dozens of his mighty ships shuddered and suffered significant damage from the asteroid defenses. The humans had literally turned their entire solar system into a weaponized zone. "Impressive," Zorgan admitted, a grudging note in his guttural voice. "But mere asteroids cannot stop the Cathar Empire." His fleet, unyielding, pushed through the asteroid belt, systematically destroying the mining stations one by one, leaving a trail of shattered debris in their wake. The human defenses fell back towards Mars, where another calculated surprise awaited the Cathar. The Red Planet's orbital shipyards, normally bustling with civilian construction, had been working frantically for weeks, producing not just new warships, but thousands upon thousands of automated drones. As the Cathar fleet approached Mars, swarms of these unmanned fighters launched from hidden bases buried deep beneath the planet's surface. "What are these?" Zorgan demanded, his voice tinged with a new, unsettling caution as his sensors detected the approaching drone swarms. "Small, automated vessels, Your Majesty," his tactical officer reported, bewilderment in his tone. "Each one appears to be carrying a single, large explosive warhead. Zorgan's glowing red eyes widened as he realized the horrific truth, the barbaric ingenuity of all. The humans had built suicide drones, each one designed to ram into Cthar ships and detonate with catastrophic force. It was a tactic so ruthless, so utterly devoid of Cthar concepts of honor and combat, that even they, the galaxy's ultimate conquerors, had never considered it. Hundreds of drones, a relentless tide of destruction, slammed into the vast invasion fleet. Each explosion was individually small, but there were literally thousands of them, a ceaseless barrage. Cthar ships found their vaunted shields overloaded, flickering and failing, their mighty armor cracked and breached by the relentless, suicidal assault. "Barbaric!" Zorgan roared, his voice trembling with fury. "They use machines to fight like berserkers. This is not war. This is madness." But the true nightmare for the Cthar was yet to unfold. As the Cthar fleet, now disorganized and reeling, regrouped near Mars, space itself seemed to spring to life with unexpected weapons fire. Human ships, alongside their luminary allies, emerged from cunningly hidden positions throughout the solar system, from behind asteroids, from the deep shadows of moons, even from within the icy rings of Jupiter. Admiral Chun had transformed the entire solar system into a colossal, multi-layered trap. The humans did not engage in a single, grand, decisive battle. Instead, they employed a masterful strategy of hit-and-run attacks, devastating ambushes, and large-scale, systematic guerrilla warfare. Cthar ships found themselves under attack from multiple, unpredictable directions simultaneously, constantly unable to form proper, defensible battle lines. "They are everywhere," Zorgan's fleet commander reported, his voice tinged with terror. "We cannot establish formation when the enemy refuses to fight a proper battle. They melt away before we can engage and reappear behind us." Zorgan, for the first time in his long, brutal reign, began to truly comprehend what his intelligence officers had desperately tried to convey. These humans did not fight like any other species in the galaxy. They possessed no traditional concept of honor in warfare. They employed every dirty trick, every underhanded tactic, every ruthless, cold-blooded strategy they could conceive. And to his utter horror, it was working. The battle raged for 3 brutal, unrelenting days across the entire solar system. Slowly, inexorably, the colossal Cthar fleet was being worn down, systematically dismantled by an enemy that fought with a level of cunning, skill, and sheer ferocity they had never encountered. Human and luminary losses were heavy, but the defenders had transformed their home system into a vast meat grinder that consumed enemy ships faster than Zorgan could replace them. On the 3rd day, just as the Cthar were showing signs of breaking, reinforcements arrived that decisively shifted the tide of battle. Admiral Jace Corbin and his now fully repaired and upgraded fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel near Earth, followed by an astonishing sight. 50 luminary warships, their emerald hulls gleaming with newly installed human armor and weapons, had come to fight alongside humanity. "This is Admiral Corbin to Earth Defense Command," Corbin broadcast, his voice ringing with triumph. "The cavalry has arrived, and they brought friends." Behind the combined human and luminary fleets, more ships, previously unseen in the galactic conflict, began to emerge. The Astral Concord, breaking their long-standing neutrality, had sent a formidable squadron of their most advanced vessels, their sleek, elegant hulls slicing through space. The Cygnus Collective contributed their powerful drone carriers, disgorging swarms of automated fighters that darkened the void. Even smaller, independent worlds, long cowed by Cthar intimidation, had sent what ships they could spare, their defiance fueled by the hope humanity had ignited. For the very first time in galactic history, multiple species, diverse and disparate, had united in a powerful, unified alliance to fight the Cthar Empire. Zorgan stared at his tactical display in utter disbelief. The humans, they had somehow achieved the impossible. They had convinced other species to join their desperate war. The galaxy, long fragmented by Cthar terror, was now uniting against him. Impossible, Zorgan whispered, his voice hoarse, a tremor of fear finally entering his voice. No one has ever successfully formed an alliance against the Cthar Empire. Your Majesty, Intelligence Director Zarn said quietly, his voice carrying a note of morbid finality. Perhaps that is because no one has ever given the galaxy hope that the Cthar could be defeated. Until now, the arrival of the Allied fleet, a beacon of unified resolve, turned the battle decisively against the Cthar. Human ships coordinated seamlessly with alien vessels, sharing tactics, target data, and a burning desire for freedom. The luminaries, with their emerald green hulls, provided crucial advanced shields and targeting sensors. The Astral Concord contributed their potent energy weapons, lashing out with devastating force. The Cygnus Collective drones swarmed through space like relentless mechanical locusts, utterly overwhelming the Cthar defenses. Admiral Jace Corbin, leading the vanguard, directed the final, decisive assault on Emperor Zorgan's flagship. The Oblivion's Maw was the largest Cthar warship ever built, bristling with an absurd array of weapons and protected by layered shields that had been considered utterly impenetrable. All ships, concentrate fire on the enemy flagship, Corbin ordered, his voice echoing across the Allied comms. Take down their Emperor. This ends here. The combined Allied fleet focused their devastating firepower on Zorgan's massive dreadnought. Human kinetic weapons, luminary plasma cannons, and Astral Concord energy beams converged, striking the ship simultaneously in a blinding, earth-shattering fusillade. Even a mighty Oblivion's Maw, for all its vaunted defenses, could not withstand such a concentrated, overwhelming assault. Zorgan felt his ship shudder violently under the relentless, cascading impacts. For the first time in his long, tyrannical life, the Cthar Emperor faced the undeniable, terrifying possibility of defeat. "My lord," his tactical officer reported, his voice filled with panic. "Our shields are failing. Critical hull breaches on multiple decks. We must evacuate, Your Majesty. The ship is breaking apart." "No!" Zorgan roared, his voice raw with impotent fury and desperate denial. "The Cthar Empire does not retreat. We fight to the death. We are invincible." But his crew, for the first time in their lives, had lost faith in their emperor. Escape pods, small, desperate streaks of light, began launching from the flagship's shattered bays as Cthar officers, utterly broken, abandoned their tyrannical leader. Zorgan watched his vast empire, once seemingly eternal, crumble around him as ship after ship surrendered or fled the battle in disarray. Admiral Jace Corbin opened a communication channel, routing it directly to the crippled flagship, its outline now barely visible through the raging fires. "Emperor Zorgan," Corbin said, his voice cold and devoid of triumph, merely grim finality. "Your fleet is defeated. Your empire is broken. Surrender now, and spare the lives of your remaining crew. This is the end." Zorgan's obsidian black face, streaked with alien blood and the grime of battle, appeared on the screen, twisted with a horrifying, impotent rage and the raw agony of defeat. "You think you have won, human?" Zorgan snarled, his voice a guttural, trembling rasp. "You fight like savage beasts. You have no honor. The galaxy will see what you have done to us and despise your methods. Every warrior species will unite against your barbaric tactics. You have merely created a galaxy of enemies." Corbin's lips curved into a final, humorless smile. "You are right," he stated, his voice a low, primal growl. "We do fight like beasts. We are the beasts that crawled out of the caves and conquered our entire planet. We are the beasts that turned warfare into a science, into an art of survival. And now, Emperor, you have learned why every predator species in Earth's history learned to fear us." The Oblivion's Maw, the once proud symbol of Cthar dominion, shuddered one final, cataclysmic time. It exploded in a blinding, silent ball of fire, a super-hot nova in the void, taking the Cthar Emperor, Zorgan, with it. The remaining enemy ships, a handful of terrified, broken vessels scattered wildly, fleeing back to their home territories in a desperate, disorganized rout. The Battle of Earth was over. In the aftermath, representatives from dozens of species, their forms and cultures wildly diverse, gathered at Nexus Station above Earth. The stunning, unprecedented victory over the Cathar had sent literal shockwaves throughout the galaxy. The empire that had seemed invincible, a terror for 5 centuries, had been decisively broken by a coalition of free worlds. President Lena Petrova of Earth, her face weary but shining with profound relief, addressed the assembled delegates. Today, we have proven to the entire galaxy that no empire, no matter how powerful, no matter how ruthless, can stand against united, free peoples. The Cathar thought they could conquer the galaxy through fear and brutal subjugation. They were profoundly, utterly wrong. Ambassador Theron of the Luminary Republic, his emerald green skin glowing softly in the station's light, stood beside the human president, a symbol of their newfound unity. The galaxy has changed forever in these desperate days, Theron proclaimed, his voice resonating with newfound strength. We have all learned a vital, undeniable truth. Standing together makes us stronger than any single empire, stronger than any tyranny. This alliance, forged in the fires of conflict, must continue to grow and protect. One by one, in a moment that would be etched into galactic history, the assembled species formally signed the Treaty of Earth, establishing the Galactic Defense Alliance. Humanity, no longer a fledgling species, took its rightful place as a founding member, instantly respected and, to many, quietly feared throughout known space. The Cathar Empire, shattered at its core, slowly collapsed over the following months. Without their emperor, with their main fleet destroyed, and with their aura of invincibility irrevocably broken, the remaining Cathar territories descended into brutal civil war. Former slave worlds, emboldened by Earth's defiance, rebelled with a vengeance, fiercely fighting for and winning their long-denied freedom. The 500-cycle reign of terror was, at long last, truly over. Admiral Jace Corbin stood on the observation deck of Nexus Station, gazing out at the vast construction ships, like diligent insects, building new, formidable defensive platforms around Earth. The planet would never again be caught unprepared for attack. Captain Alara joined him at the panoramic window, her emerald eyes reflecting the bustling activity. The luminary officer had become a close, trusted friend, a sister in arms, during their shared struggles. "Admiral," Alara said, a quiet awe in her voice, "the galaxy owes humanity a debt that can never be repaid. You answered our call when every other power turned away. You gave us hope where there was only despair." Corbin smiled, a genuine, warm smile, and shook his head gently. "We didn't save the galaxy alone, Captain. It took all of us, every single species who chose courage over fear, working together, fighting side by side. That, Captain, is the real lesson here. No single species, no matter how powerful, is strong enough to stand alone against tyranny. But united, free peoples, united, we can overcome any threat, no matter how vast, no matter how ancient." Outside the station's massive viewports, ships from dozens of diverse worlds patrolled the solar system, a testament to the new alliance. Humans worked alongside luminaries and beings from the Astral Concord and the Cygnus Collective, sharing technology, knowledge, and laughter. The galaxy, once shadowed by fear, had found a new, powerful hope in the alliance forged through the crucible of battle. The age of the Cathar Empire was over. The age of the Galactic Defense Alliance had truly, definitively begun. And at the heart of it all was a small, vibrant blue planet whose people had bravely refused to let innocents die alone in the cold, silent darkness of space. Earth had answered the call, and the galaxy would never, ever be the same.